of those sex trafficking and RICO charges is because he was overcharged in the first place. Mine is not to opine on his guilt or innocence on any of the charges the feds brought against him. But I predicted months ago that he would beat the most serious charges because, as usual, prosecutors have a really bad habit of overcharging black men. Dave Chappelle said it best: Puffy is in a RICO case all by himself, man. Hilarious and arresting at the same time. When prosecutors put a target on the backs of black men, they throw everything at them just to see what sticks. And too often, just like in the Puffy case at the very end, they move to dismiss some of the charges and then double down on the ones they think they can win. It's racist and it's wrong, and somebody ought to say so. I think I just did. Not for the benefit of Puffy, but on behalf of all the other black men who have been and sadly will be woefully overcharged in the future. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Protesting anthems, yes, we chanting a movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of, it's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, our best align.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch until you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. All you got to do is type Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and I pop right on up fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or guess what? You can tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, be sure to subscribe. Did I mention subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast? That way, you will never miss an episode. You'll always catch some of our best and brightest on demand. Now, we have a really great show lined up for you today. In our second hour, we'll be talking to Darius Edgerton. He is a former U.S. State Department official. He is also an expert on all things Africa. There's a lot happening on the continent that we should be paying attention to right here. What happens there is also happening here. And so we'll be talking to Darius in our second hour. Later in this first hour, we'll be talking to William Godwin. He is a former White House fellow. He's also the former Gary City Council president, and he'll be joining us to react to some of the trending headlines today coming out of the White House and other parts of the country. But before that, I'm going to share a part of my interview with April Verrett. She is the president of SEIU International. And I had a chance to catch up with her and so many other folks just this past weekend at the Essence Festival of Culture, and more specifically, the Global Black Economic Forum. There is so much happening in our community here in Los Angeles and across the country. And it was important to get in front of leaders on the front lines to make it make sense and to look beyond what's in front of us. This is a moment that calls for all of us to step up, including our leaders. And so I am really delighted to share my conversations with leaders on the front lines, leaders in industry, to give us sort of a shot of hope in these challenging times. But now it's time for your National News Roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, NBC News is reporting that the Texas flooding leaves at least 104 people dead, including Camp Mystic counselors and campers. This is what we know at this hour. In Kerr County, officials report 84 deaths, in which case it's 56 adults and 28 children. With slow-moving and scattered thunderstorms, flood watches remain in effect today across central Texas until 7 p.m. local time, including over the Hill Country region, which experienced flash flooding over the weekend. Camp Mystic, as in the summer camp at the center of this devastating flood that's hit the Texas Hill Country over the last 3 days, is grieving the loss of 27 campers and counselors. Flood watches are also in effect from eastern Virginia up through northern New Jersey, including Baltimore and Philadelphia, as Tropical Depression Chantel moves into the mid-Atlantic region. And so be safe out there to all of our leaders, learners, and listeners across the country that may be in the storm's path. Be very, very, very careful. And, speaking of being careful, there are a lot of folks that are beginning to call attention to what looks like a lack of caution, a lack of preparation from officials in Texas. The New York Times reporting that officials feared flood risks to youth camps but rejected the warning system. 8 years ago, in the aftermath of yet another river flood in the Texas Hill Country, officials in Kerr County debated whether more needed to be done to build a warning system along the banks of the Guadalupe River. Now, a series of summer camps along the river were often packed with kids, and for years, local officials kept them safe with a word-of-mouth system. When floodwaters started raging upriver, camp leaders warned those downriver of the water surging coming their way. But was that enough? Officials considered supplementing the system with sirens and river gauges, along with other modern communications tools. But in the end, little was done. And when catastrophic floodwaters surged through Kerr County last week, there were no sirens. There were no early flooding monitors. Instead, there were text alerts that came late for some residents and were dismissed or unseen by others. And so you better believe there are a lot of folks that will rightfully be digging into how we got here and how many of these deaths, if not all of them, were absolutely avoidable. Speaking of flooding, we're not just experiencing floods in central Texas, but severe flooding in North Carolina after Chantel has dumped heavy rains. The New York Times also reporting that officials in central North Carolina, they rescued dozens of stranded people on Sunday night and early Monday morning after the tropical depression Chantel dumped up to 10 inches of rain in parts of the state, bringing significant flooding that inundated homes. It closed highways, it trapped drivers, and pushed rivers up to near historical levels. The storm, which made landfall as a tropical storm early Sunday in South Carolina and then moved inland, had weakened to a post-tropical cyclone by this afternoon and was moving northeast over the Chesapeake Bay towards eastern Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, where there were flood watches posted. And so again, be very, very careful out there. Pay extra close attention to what your local officials are saying because we don't want anybody to get hurt. and don't underestimate the power for flooding and for even these tropical storms to create harm. Speaking of harm, back here in California, the LA Times reporting that heavily armed immigration agents are descending or have descended on LA's MacArthur Park. Immigration agents in military green surrounded MacArthur Park as the convoy readied for a show of force akin to a Hollywood movie. They came with horses and armored vehicles carrying rifles and tactical gear in the middle of what is the heart of immigrant Los Angeles. But there were few of their supposed targets to be found Monday. We're talking specifically about immigrants without documentation. You see, since at least Sunday, rumors had spread about an operation at the park. Flyers were plastered around the area warning that ICE, or La Migra, as they're also known, were coming. It's unclear if anyone was arrested during the sweep, but there was certainly video of LA Mayor Karen Bass at MacArthur Park today telling ICE that they had to go, In fact, the mayor in a social media post said that that minutes before there were more than 20 kids playing. Then the military comes through. The second I heard about this, I went to the park to speak to the person in charge to tell them it needed to end now. Absolutely outrageous. And so we're going to continue to keep our eye on this developing story here in Los Angeles. But when we come forward, I'm going to share with you a little bit of my interview with April Verrett, the president of SEIU International. You don't want to miss that. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time. Whenever news breaks, while we're on the air, it's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580. And we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turn away, you were right there. Thank you.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOT hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me! National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. And remember, just moments ago, I was sharing with you news from the LA Times. The LA Times, again, reporting on heavily armed immigration agents descending on LA's MacArthur Park. Mayor Bass said, quotes, "It's an outrageous and un-American. It's outrageous and un-American that we have federal armed vehicles in our park." She went on to say what happened to the criminals and the drug dealers and the violent individuals who were in the park today were children. It was their summer camp, their summer day camp. MacArthur Park, for people who are less familiar about LA, the park sits in an area of dense immigrant community marked by poverty and also thriving street culture. Vendors line the streets. There are palm tree dotted parks that fill the playground area where many families living nearby in apartments find refuge. And so we're going to continue to keep our eye on this. There's another video that I saw right before we went on air of the folks over at St. John's Community Health, many of which are frequent guests on this show. One of which is Darren Harris, who's the Chief Government Affairs and Community Relations Officer. He put out a statement just this afternoon saying, quotes, "Today, as our street medicine team from St. John's Community Health was setting up to provide essential health services at MacArthur Park, we were surrounded by military tanks and confronted by heavily armed federal agents who threatened us, who cursed at us, and forced us to leave. It was shocking, frightening, and absolutely unacceptable. Our top priority is always the safety of our patients and staff. And what happened today was, in our view, both unconstitutional and illegal. St. John's Community Health will be taking legal action in response to the incident. We refuse to be intimidated by today's violent publicity stunt. We remain committed to providing quality health care to our undocumented patients, and we'll continue to do everything we can to support our community." Again, that's from Darren Harris, the Chief Government Affairs and Community Relations Officer at St. John's Community Health. We want to switch gears a little bit, and I invite you to take a listen to one of the many interviews that I did this past weekend at the Essence Festival of Culture, specifically the Global Black Economic Forum, with a number of frontline leaders that are having to address sort of a wide range of issues, all at the same time. And one such leader that knows a lot about that is April Verrett. She is the president of SEIU International. Take a listen to what she shared with me this weekend at Essence. 1980. I am so enjoying this conversation with April Verrett of SEIU International Labor Union. And I was just sharing with her during our brief pause how refreshing it is to be in conversation with a frontline leader that understands life on the ground. She has not forgotten what life is like on the ground, what life is like closest to the pain. As someone who travels often back and forth between DC and LA, you know, I pick up on it in conversations. You know, folks that are really close to the people versus people that are just tracking what the polls say, right? Talk to us about how you maintain that balance between being the leader that you need to be in Washington,
Mhm.
but being accessible to leaders on the ground in community across the country and around the world.
Yeah, well, it starts by not staying in DC.
Amen.
I am there as much as I need to be there to do my job and to do it well. But when I get to be in Los Angeles and in Oakland and in Sacramento and in Humboldt and in, all of the places where our members call home, and not just in California, but I go to New York and Boston and Chicago and Detroit and Atlanta and Durham, right? The places where people actually live and work. Not that they don't do that in DC, but being in community, being in proximity to our members, to their struggle, walking a day in the shoes of our members when I can. And I drive my staff a little bit crazy because as long as somebody want a hug, want a picture, want to talk about what's going on in their lives, I'm going to make the time to do that. But also talking to business leaders and business owners and trying to reset the relationship between business and labor, right? Because in this moment, in this time, we got to work together. And as I want to build a new 21st century labor movement that's younger, darker, hipper, fresher, swaggier, right, to meet the needs of today's workers and today's economy and the future, that means a different relationship with business, where they see labor and unions and workers as a value add, right? As we confront things like AI and innovation, workers need a different seat at the table, where it's not a conversation about, is that technology going to take my job? But that is understood that I'm a human, I need the job, it's not going to go nowhere. But how is that technology going to make my job better? Going to allow me to live better and work better? And so how are we wrapping our arms around that? And we got to be in conversation differently with business leaders in order to make that happen.
I love that you brought that up because I've actually seen you mention that a lot in some of the interviews and conversations you've been having, making clear that y'all are not anti-business. And as much as there are folks in corporate America that want to pretend that organized labor is the devil, you're like, we're not the devil.
That's right. I'm not looking for conflict. I'm looking for correction. I am looking to correct generational poverty. I'm looking to correct economic exploitation and the perpetuation of it. Get your bag. I want you to have your bag. I just want you to create a bag for others. Don't get in the way of your workers getting a bag too, right? So you'll have a few less billion. That's okay. Let's spread the wealth around, because I think that we all need to live and work better.
April, I want to ask you, what is it about Trump that has animated and energized a lot of working class people? There are a number of folks that traditionally Republicans wouldn't expect to be a part of their coalition that are. And it's not just in some areas, it is across the country. What is it about President Trump? What is it about his agenda that has some working class folks rocking with him?
Yeah. Look, I think it is all performative. I don't think he believes much of his own rhetoric, but he has done a masterful job of convincing far too many working people that he sees them, that he appreciates their pain, and that he has a vision to do something about it. And I say it's performative because I believe that he doesn't really see them. He doesn't really acknowledge and, want to do something about their pain, but he definitely wants to leverage them for his own personal power. I also just think that in general, the right, and my good friend Rashad Robinson says this, I wish I had said it myself, but I quote him about this all the time, that the right has the ability to make people feel like they belong. And then they convince them what to believe. And on our side of the political spectrum, we require people to believe before we make them believe they belong. And I think we got to do a better job of being inclusive. We call ourselves a big tent, but we real damn judgy. We are real damn judgy. Yeah. And so how are we doing a better job of helping people feel like they belong to something? And that they don't got to believe every single thing we believe or that I believe or that you believe, but that we all belong someplace and we belong in that place together.
That's right. In our remaining moment with April Verrett, I want to ask you, what is giving you hope these days? There are a lot of folks out there that feel like the ground has literally shifted underneath our feet. What is keeping you tethered? What is keeping you anchored? What is keeping you up late at night?
Well, right now, today, being at Essence Fest is what has given me hope, because it really is a party with a purpose. I've not had many conversations that have not pivoted to the bill and what's bad and what's to come, but yet we are still holding space for our joy, holding space for togetherness, right? And that's important in this moment, because if we are just miserable and angry, it's too hard to sustain the work. Like, we got to be able to do it with joy and center love. And so it's important for me to remember that in this moment. And what was the last question? I'm sorry.
And you know, what is keeping you up late at night?
I mean, thinking about those babies that's not going to have health insurance and that's not going to have lunch at school really is keeping me up at night. Thinking about our seniors and people living with disabilities who rely on health care, about our members who are going to be impacted, about the hospitals and nursing homes in community that are going to close, and the pain that far too many people are going to feel over the next few years. But I am hopeful that we are able to turn that pain into purpose and into power.
Well, I am more hopeful because of this conversation. It has been a joy to be in conversation with my sister, our sister, April Verrett. She is the president of SEIU International. She is on her job while we are on assignment here at the Essence Festival of Culture. Thank you, April.
Thank you. Let's go get it, LA.
Awesome.
The audience is listening. Thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Senator Tim Scott says claims that President Trump is going too easy on Russian President Vladimir Putin are, quote, hogwash, end quote. On Fox News, Scott defended Trump's pause on some weapons to Ukraine, saying Trump is focused on ending the conflict while keeping Americans safe.
This has been the most remarkable few weeks in an American presidency.
He expects shipments to Ukraine will resume after a Pentagon review. Black House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries plans to meet with New York City mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani next week to discuss his vision. And talks between Philadelphia and its largest workers' union have stalled as a strike enters day 7. Workers want higher pay and health benefits, rejecting the city's 13% raise over 4 years. Trash is piling up, and events like Wawa Welcome America have been hit, with LL Cool J and Jasmine Sullivan pulling out in support. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Whittier, this is a crash on the 605 northbound past Rose Hills. The right lane is blocked, delays away from the 105. Also in Lake Elsinore, it's a crash. It started as a car fire, and then it became a brush fire on the 15 northbound just past Nichols Road. It's the right lane that's off limits. Big delays backing up away from Railroad Canyon Road. And as you make your way through East LA, a stall on the 5 southbound Dittman Avenue. Right lane's blocked, and that drive is slow from the 60. In Laguna Beach, Coast Highway is closed in both directions between Laguna Canyon Road and Crown Valley Parkway due to the Rancho fire.
Rapid radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. Business owners can now keep in touch with up to 200 staff members at one time. Go to rapidradios.com now for up to 60% off and free shipping.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers were involved in a 3-team trade Monday morning that sent Norman Powell to the Miami Heat. In return, the Clippers get John Collins, a 6'9" forward from the Utah Jazz. Collins is 27. He averaged 19 points and 8 rebounds last season with Utah. The Clippers are on a mission to get younger. The 32-year-old Powell averaged a career-high 21.8 points last season and started 60 games. Ben Shelton, a 22-year-old African-American from Atlanta, advanced to the quarterfinals at Wimbledon Monday morning for the first time in his career. Shelton defeated Lorenzo Sonego of Italy in 4 sets. Shelton is only the 4th African-American man to reach the Wimbledon quarterfinals. Arthur Ashe did it 3 times. Malachi Washington made it in 1996, Christopher Eubanks in 2023. Ashe is still the only African-American man to win the Wimbledon championship. He did it in 1975. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just
including new ways to send us photos and video in real time. Whenever news breaks, while we're on the air, it's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turn away, you were right there. And I thank you, thank you.
LA County's Justice Care and Opportunities Department, also known as JCOD, is changing the justice system for Angelenos. If you or someone you love has recently been arrested, come home from jail or prison, or has been justice involved, JCOD can help. We offer access to housing, employment, court reminders, clothing, education, and more. At JCOD, we believe your life should not be defined by your worst moment, and everyone deserves a second chance. JCOD's Justice Connect Support Center is open 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Call us at 833-LAC JCOD. That's 833-522-5263, or visit us at jcod.lacounty.gov. You can also find us on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and YouTube at LAC JCOD. All services are free and confidential. JCOD serves the justice-impacted population all across LA County. Your future isn't behind you, it's waiting. Reach out by calling 833-LAC JCOD. That's 833-522-5263, or visit jcod.lacounty.gov.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC. Behind the scenes access is enough. No more promo. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and delighted to be in conversation again with William Godwin. He's a former White House fellow. He's also the former president of the Gary City Council. Welcome back to the show, William.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
It's so good to be here, and so good to have you here. And so, listen, you've been the president of a city council before, and I'm sure there are a lot of things that just sort of come up that you just have to react to. You have to respond to. At the top of the show, I mentioned that the LA Times reporting that heavily armed immigration agents have descended upon LA's MacArthur Park. We know that Mayor Bass has called it outrageous and un-American that we have federal armed vehicles in our park. She went on to say, well, what happened to the criminals, the drug dealers, the violent individuals? She says, the folks who were in the park today were children. They had a summer camp happening, a summer day camp, and as you know, that these kids are not criminals. And so, talk to us as a former city council president. What tools do folks have at their disposal to push back even harder against Trump's attempt to intimidate places like Los Angeles?
Yeah, I think it's very tough. Like when I was on the city council, even in Gary, at our airport, we had a contract with the federal government to deport individuals, and I had a lot of citizens who protested. They're very upset about it. Obviously, it's a little different, but it was very limited what we could do. I mean, ICE has a lot of authority, a lot of power, as does the military when the president has activated it in this way. But what I can say is that citizens have to get out. They have to vote. They have to talk to their Congress people. They have to show up. And I think the people of LA appear to be doing that quite well.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right. People have to show up, and every election matters. Every single election matters, because who sits in these seats of power, it really makes a difference, particularly when there is a crisis. And from LA to Texas, we are seeing leadership respond in crisis. In some cases, it's awfully underwhelming. We know that floods are getting more and more dangerous around the country. But right now in Texas, as I shared at the top of this show, more than 100 people have died in these floods in central Texas. Obviously, search and recovery efforts are still in the early stages. But that's not stopping a lot of folks, from beginning to do some finger pointing and look for some accountability. We know that Camp Mystic, the summer camp at the center of this devastating flooding that's hit Texas Hill Country over the last 3 years, that they've lost 27 campers and counselors. What's your reaction, William?
First, my heart goes out to the families, to the communities that are involved. And I think we have to continue to prioritize the importance of public safety and emergency management. To your point earlier, there was no shortage of criticism when President Biden was in office. Whenever there was a national emergency, in terms of the timing of the response, the adequacy of the response, and people are right to point out the effect of Doge, right? The major cuts that have happened. A lot of folks don't realize that our weather service, right, is in part run through the Department of Commerce, right? And so when you start cutting those resources without really concern for the consequences downstream, and even though someone may not be relevant every day, when the emergency happens, you want someone in that seat ready to take action and to support the American people, to support states, localities who are not equipped to suspect these particular emergencies or to react to them in the way the citizens deserve.
Let's talk a little bit about the politics of this. The president has signed a disaster declaration for the state of Texas. We know that state of California struggled to get federal resources in the aftermath of the very tragic LA wildfires. We know that Sarah Huckabee Sanders has been lobbying the president, lobbying the White House to get federal declaration in support of Arkansas, still recovering from those devastating tornadoes. Are we watching the president play politics with his power to sign these disaster declarations and open up federal resources where they're needed most?
Absolutely. And it's unfortunate because lives are at stake, property is at stake. But we know from this president's past actions that it's all about the deal, right? It's all about negotiation, whether it's tariffs, right? We know the timeline is winding down on some of the tariff negotiations around the country, whether it's certain federal resources, even the last big, beautiful bill, right? It only passed because Murkowski was able to negotiate things for Alaska specifically, right? Carve-outs for Medicaid. So this is a negotiating president that is willing to use even emergency management as a negotiating chip. And so I think that's why a lot of governors, certainly Republican governors, are afraid to step to speak out on any issue, not even related to emergencies, for fear of negative consequences.
Speaking of Republican governors, a lot of eyes are on Virginia as they emerge as a key bellwether ahead of the midterms. TheHill.com reporting that Virginia's off-year election is being viewed by both parties as a key bellwether heading into the midterms, as a potential indicator of how voters view President Trump. We know that Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, Republican, and former Representative Abigail Spanberger, Democrat, they're going to face off to become the first female governor of the state, while Democrats seek to maintain and grow their majority in the House of Delegates. Talk to us about the role that disaster response, disaster preparedness may play in bellwether elections like this, whether we're talking about the gubernatorial race in Virginia or races just up and down the ticket. It seems to me that response to these natural disasters, to these emergency situations, is becoming more politicized than it already has been.
Well, absolutely. People, if nothing else, want to see government work. They may not support every social program, they may not support every policy, but there are some core functions, public safety, national security, that are critical. And whether you're a libertarian, Republican, Democrat, independent, or anything in between or beyond, you want the response of the federal government, which has the capacity to do things that cities and counties and even states just cannot do. They're not equipped to do it. They're not skilled to do it. And so you need that's the whole power, right, of having a federal government, is to come in and do what states and localities cannot do. And so it certainly makes people think differently about government. The last several months, public service has been really poo-pooed. It's been looked down upon. There's waste, there's fraud, there's abuse. We need to eliminate, we need to cut. And so now when people see that there's actually a need for government, I think it will open people's eyes to wanting a more balanced approach to any kind of cost saving measures that are taking place.
Yeah. And, on the campaign side of the equation, getting people into elected office, getting competent, capable people into elected office may be easier said than done. But Elon Musk, if he has anything to do about it, he wants to start a new political party. USA Today reporting that Trump plans Musk after the billionaire announced his new political party. President Trump took aim at Elon Musk after his former advisor announced the creation of this new political party, the American Party. He announced this on July 5th, just the day after Independence Day, but also the day after Trump signed his mega bill. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office projects that legislation is going to increase the national debt by $3.4 trillion. That's trillion with a T, which Elon Musk has lambasted, saying, quotes, when it comes to bankrupting our country with waste and grift, we live in a one-party system, not a democracy. He went on to say, today the American Party is formed to give you back your freedom. Trump criticized third parties in his July 6th post. William, what do you make of this? Is this just another temper tantrum that Elon Musk is throwing, or could he potentially put his full weight and full checkbook behind this and emerge as a wild card in the 2026 midterm election?
I think he could. I think his impact will be greater in 28 than in 26. And while I disagree with a lot of the actions he took at Doge, I'm sure it's incredibly frustrating for him, having taken all that heat for so-called cost savings measures, only to have the president endorse and sign a bill that then, as you say, increases the national debt by trillions, right? It flies in the face of the whole Doge effort, right? Which has hurt Tesla, hurt his brand. And certainly I don't support most of what Doge is putting forward. I do think he has the power to do it. Look, he has social media. He has a following that's irrespective of party. He certainly has the dollars to do it. And I think strategic races, Senate races that are coming up, he could be a spoiler. And it could go either way. And I often just say, I know time is of the essence, but, even the 92 presidential election, when people say, and I think Trump said that, third parties don't work, they do work. There's a good argument to be made that Ross Perot is in part the reason that Bill Clinton became president, right? Because a lot of Republicans voted for him instead of George Herbert Bush, right? So I think that it can be very powerful. He has a megaphone like no other.
He no doubt has a megaphone like no other. The question is, though, he doesn't have no credibility. He doesn't have credibility among a number of the folks who could, benefit from having an alternative to the status quo. How does he overcome that? Can he overcome that, particularly with Black voters who are very frustrated? You hear them, you talk to them as much as I do. A number of folks sort of feeling stuck between a rock and a hard place. They're not about that Republican Party life. They're not about that MAGA life, right? But they are, disenchanted with the status quo and the Democratic Party. And so is there a path for Elon Musk gaining any credibility to make this American party a real contender in 2026 and 2028?
It's tough, right? Because primaries are so heavily partisan, right? And they don't, and that's where most of our congressional districts, for example, are not competitive, right? They are either Republican seats or Democratic seats. So, if someone's able to get Trump support and win the primary, they're going to be the congressperson for that district. And putting an independent in the general election may have a smaller effect, right? If some people are able to be peeled off. However, they know that the consequence in many of these districts will be a Democrat with whom they may urgently disagree, right? And even if you looked at this last one big beautiful bill, so-called, right? There was some who initially were opposed, but then they said, hey, if the Democrats are so upset about this, well, I got to vote for it, right? If they're angry about it. And you can see the same thing playing out in the congressional race, where it's like, hey, we see this Elon Musk-backed candidate. However, we don't want that Democratic alternative. So I think there might be some key swing districts where he might be effective, but I don't think it's a shoo-in. I think he's going to be more effective as a spoiler, maybe in a presidential election or some U.S. Senate races like North Carolina, right? Which is going to be a critical open seat in a state where you have Democrats that have won statewide, right, for state offices, but can't seem to win recently for national office. You can see him getting in that race and being an incredible threat to the Republican Party.
So my big takeaway from this conversation is don't assume that Musk is going away quietly. There may very well be a Musk effect in 2026 and 2028. Some people might say it's a musty Musk effect, depending on your politics, but we'll leave it there. Our thanks to William Godwin, former White House fellow and Gary City Council president. When we come forward, I had a chance to spend the weekend in New Orleans at the Essence Festival. Lots of talk on these internet streets about Essence. I'm going to tell you what I saw, what I heard, and also share a little bit from some of the leaders on the front lines I had a chance to talk with. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent. And the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember, no warrant, no key, my privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has worksource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. So this weekend, I had the opportunity to attend the Essence Festival of Culture and had a solid time. I had a good time talking with leaders on the front lines, people that are shaping culture in so many different industries, people that are exercising the kind of leadership, or at least attempting to exercise the kind of leadership that meets the moment. And throughout this week, I'll be sharing with you a number of those conversations, including my conversation with Maryland Governor Wes Moore. We talked pretty extensively about a range of issues that are important to you, important to me, important to our communities, and not just the people of Maryland. I think it's a pretty opportune time to hear from the only sitting Black governor in the United States, only the 3rd Black governor in the history of the United States. He had a lot to say about a range of issues, even made some news himself. And so looking forward to sharing that interview with you in short order. But on these internet streets have been talking a lot about Essence. I've seen a lot of clips about the performers at the Superdome. I was not among the performers. I wasn't among the performers. I was applauding the performers on Saturday, specifically Jilly from Philly. Love me some Jill Scott. She put on a marvelous show. She brought out some other Philly Johns, including Patti LaBelle. The legendary Patti LaBelle came out and performed a few numbers, as did Jasmine Sullivan. Before she went on, Davido perform, and so Afro Beats was in the building. And you know, Saturday was good. I had a great experience. Friday, there were folks who were annoyed. They were annoyed because the show ran way too long. I mean, by the time you got to the legendary Lauryn Hill, it was in the early morning hours. And to a lot of people, that was unacceptable. You know, I've been texting with friends about this all day, asking like, well, you know, whoop de whoop, what's what was really the issue there? And, I think part of the issue was just around planning, right? And sometimes the plan on paper don't match the plan in action. And so I want to give a shout out to all the volunteers at the Essence Festival, all the production crew at Essence Festival. I know there's a lot of people out there that work really, really hard to put on this festival, which has so many simultaneous activations. There's so many activations that are happening all at once. And I don't think people appreciate how much it takes to actually pull that off year after year after year. But I'm sure they're doing an after action, or at least I hope they are doing an after action and figuring out, how they can show up better. There are a lot of things going on, including that Target sponsorship amid the DEI backlash. Essence really sort of defending that. Black Enterprise reporting that amid reports of low ticket sales and disgruntled attendees at the Essence Festival of Culture, organizers explained why they had to keep their partnership with Target despite boycotts against the retailer. In short, they had a multi-year sponsorship. And so, in large part, they were doing what they were contractually obligated to do. I know there are a lot of folks out there that are not happy with Target stepping back from their commitments around diversity, equity, inclusion, when so many of us have supported Target for a long time. So many of us have supported so many of the vendors whose products are on Target shelves. And so we feel like, Target's acting sometimey, and we don't like that sometimey behavior. And so, we can't reward bad behavior. And that's part of the reason why a lot of folks are continuing to boycott Target to make an example out of them. And so when folks saw that, Target was still showing up at Essence, they questioned whether or not, Essence was acting in alignment with our values, right? And so Essence essentially saying they had a multi-year sponsorship with Target, and that accounts for part of the reason why they showed up there. I walked by the Target activation. I didn't see it as bustling as it was last year when I was at Essence. And so I think plenty of folks voted with their feet, as many folks continue to vote with their pocketbooks. When we come forward in our next hour, Darius Edgerton joins me. He's a former U.S. State Department official, and he's also an expert on all things Africa. We're going to get in our international bag in the next hour. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. A black pastor says race was a factor in his traffic stop in Polk County, Florida. Pastor Dontavius Sanders was pulled over for a tag light and dark tint, but says the officer escalated the stop and used a K-9 to search his car. Nothing was found and Sanders was not ticketed. The police chief apologized and launched an investigation, but Sanders says he wants action, not just words. Louisville, Kentucky Mayor Craig Greenberg and the local NAACP are condemning a brief downtown march by the white supremacist group Patriot Front. Greenberg says their hate has no place in Louisville. And Houston, Texas Mayor John Whitmire is condemning